Hello everyone, welcome back. So we're going to study for 2.6 modeling with quadratics. So why we are going to learn this? Because the reason why we learn math is we want to use math to solve practical problems. And for this session that we are trying to use the quadratic equation model to solve some real problems. Some problems could be modeled with quadratic equations. So let's look at example 15. Okay. So a spear is thrown over level ground from the top of tower. So the height in meters of the spear above the ground after t seconds is modeled by the function. So ht equals 12.25 plus 14.7t minus 4.9t squared. So t is greater than 0. So there are 4 questions. Let's look at the question A. So you need to interpret the meaning of the constant term 12.25 in the model. So t stands for time. So when t equals 0, so we have h0 equals 12.25, which means at the very beginning that we have the number 12.25, which is exactly the height of the tower. So when you are standing at the top of tower, you didn't throw the spear out, so that's the t equals 0. So 12.25 meter tall means the height of the tower. So let's look at the B. So after how many seconds does the spear hit the ground? When it hits the ground means the height equals 0, right? So we could calculate, set the function 12.25 plus 14.7t minus 4.9t squared equals 0. Then you try to solve the equation. Since it's a complex quadratic equation, it's impossible for us to try to factorize it. So we use a formula to try to solve the equation. So with the formula, we get t equals negative 0.679 or 3.68. We know t is greater than 0, so the negative value of t, we should disregard it, and we only keep the value 3.68. So we find out the time should be 6.68 seconds. Let's look at C. So ht, we need to write down the form a minus b times t minus c squared. So a lot of students, they have questions about it. So I'm going to explain. So actually, this is try to ask you, could you write it as a square form, which you need to complete the square. All right. So in order to complete square, we prefer to make x as descending order. So we write it down 4.9t squared plus 14.7t plus 12.25. All right. So in order to complete the square, we get the 4.9 out inside t squared minus 3t plus 12.25. And then 4.9 times t minus 3 over 2 squared, and then minus 9 over 4 plus 12.25. So we finish it, 4.9 t minus 3 over 2 squared, and then plus 23.275. all right. So we exchange the position to 23.275 minus 4.9 t minus 3 over 2 squared. So this is answer we want to have. All right. So let's look at the question D. I'm going to clean them all. Look at D. So use the answer to part C. Find the maximum height of the spear above the ground. So we have already finished the square form. So what's the maximum height? It is 23.275 meters. So we can set t equals 1.5, so we have the maximum height. All right. So this example gives us a great example telling us how to use quadratic equation to model something that we could use the quadratic equation model to solve the real problems. Okay, all right. So for exercise 2H, they are all application problems related to the quadratic equation. You can pause the video, try to solve them, or if you still don't have the ebook, just email me. I'm going to send you the ebook. All right. So this is the end of chapter 2. So for the mixed exercises, I wish you could finish them all. And if you still have questions, just email me or write your comments below the video. And let's go through the summary of the key points. There are 9 points that you should understand for this chapter. So 1, solve the equation. You could factorizing. How to factorize, right? This is what we are learning at 2.1 at the very beginning of chapter 2. And 2, if you cannot factorize the quadratic equation, you can use a formula to solve the quadratic equation, all right? And b squared minus 4ac, we call it discriminant, all right? So the third and the fourth point that just helps you to finish the square form, right? So one is square x squared, the coefficient of x squared is 1. Another is x squared, the coefficient is a, all right? So you need to understand how to solve them. And for the fifth, that we have the concept domain and range. What is domain? Domain is a set of possible inputs for a function. What is range? Is the set of the possible outputs of a function. For the sixth, so how to find the roots of a function, you just set the function equals 0 when you have the x value to satisfy the equation, then we call it roots. For the seventh, then what is a turning point? Turning point is the maximum value or minimum value. So if you finish the square form, that the turning point coordinate is just negative p and q, right? So for the eighth point, that for the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac is called a discriminant. So when the discriminant is greater than 0, then a quadratic function has 2 distinct real roots. So when this discriminant equals 0, so there is only 1 real root and it's repeated. And for b squared minus 4ac less than 0, the quadratic function has no real roots, but it has roots, which we're going to learn it in the future. It's about complex number. For the ninth point, which is the last one, quadratics can be used to model real-life situations. That is, we could use quadratic equation, try to solve the real problems, practical problems. Okay. So this is the end of chapter 2. Hopefully you guys will enjoy my video and already learn some contents from the video to help you prepare for the A-level AS year. Thank you so much. I will see you next time.